You know anybody that they profess to be a good Christian, but they go out on their boat fishing on Sunday instead of going to church? Or golfing? Or you, right? There's lots of things, right? Can you think of other times in the Bible when God's people turned sacred or special into something idolatrous? How about when they were camped below and Moses is on the peak and they come down, Aaron builds the golden calf? I mean, here they are, they've God's done all these miracles for them, and here comes Moses and they're all, everybody's seen the Ten Commandments. We know how it goes. Charlton Heston comes down from the mountain, and there they are. They're all dancing around the golden cow. I'm not sure why Aaron went along with that. Anybody know? Want to venture a guess? I'd have to research the answer and give you a good answer next week. You can watch online. Well, maybe we'll have to put up a way for there'll be like, people can send in, like phone in a question. Well, Lee will be answering the hotline. We've got Georgie on line 1. Go ahead, Georgie. But yeah, how do we do this today? I think we kind of went through that. So Jeroboam's call to idolatry-based worship echoes the nearly verbatim call of Aaron at Mount Sinai. At Mount Sinai, Aaron fashioned a golden calf for the people to worship after the apparent demise of their leader, Moses, who was atop of the mountain. Both Aaron and Jeroboam invited the people to worship the gods or God who brought them out of Egypt, the defining epithet of Yahweh after the Exodus. Jeroboam's perversion of worship at Bethel becomes the damning sin of the northern kingdom. The house of God where Yahweh made his covenant with Jacob instead became what the prophet Hosea calls the house of wickedness. So it doesn't answer your question, why did he go along with it? But he was, it's our commentary leads us to believe that he's like, hey, let's do this. He was caught up in the moment. So. In Egypt, right. In bondage. Right. Well, we saw that even as Moses was trying to, as the things are moving along, and because of something Moses did, they take away the straw to make brick, and people are like, they're condemning Moses. They're like, "What? Get out of here! We don't need you. We don't want what you've got. Well, this is good. I'm making bricks. I got my straw. I got my mud. Get out of here." So you're right. They kind of were doing that all along, weren't they? We don't need this. We don't want that. Very stubborn. Yeah. How are we doing on time? So the extraordinary image of the ladder to heaven from Genesis 28:10-17 has had a lasting effect on religious thought, art, and literature. A ladder with angels ascending and descending on it was so striking that interpreters were certain that some symbolic message lay behind it. The ancient symbolism of the ziggurat, a stepped pyramid symbolizing the place where heaven and earth meet, was long forgotten. So the meaning of the ladder was spiritualized or allegorized. Now, I don't know who Philo is, but in his view, righteous people are like Jacob at the gate of heaven. They're in a transitional state. caught between heaven and earth, pulled toward heaven or hell, depending on the quality of their deeds. That's what we're talking about down the line. In this interpretation, God's favor and our salvation are based on our deeds. Other interpreters view the ladder to heaven as assurance of God's continual presence. As they grow in their maturity, their deeds are and be fruitful as they go, right? James talks about that, right? James, yeah. Right. And you haven't thought about it. How can the image of a ladder or stairway symbolize the Christian life as we move closer or farther away from being Christ-like? I mean, my example was the maturing Christian, more fruitful. Their works, while we can't get to heaven on our works, but as you mature, you're going to do more fruitful things. That's the premise anyway, right? Or you should do more fruitful things. I don't think we always do, but at least I know I don't. I make mistakes. Sometimes I feel like I'm going 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I'm still climbing. I'm not ready to trust him. It's one thing to hear about what God can do. It's another to experience it in your own lives. Jacob responded to God's generous promise with a deal. God, if you will do this, then I will let you be my God. What Jacob didn't yet realize was that God will be God, regardless of whether we let him. And Jacob liked to hold the reins to his life, and his grip was unyielding. And so the long-suffering God of Abraham and Isaac took Jacob on a long journey of letting go. As everything comfortable and familiar crumbled around him, Jacob would learn that God can indeed be trusted. I really should read these things. Have you ever been reluctant to trust God about something? And what was it? And why did you have such a difficult time letting go? I think we kind of talked about that just now. But can you think of a time when you trusted God to take care of something and he proved himself beyond your expectations? Anybody? See some nodding heads. Hopefully it's not sleep-induced. It is kind of warm in here, right? Don't want to put anybody to sleep. Did that make it easier to trust him again for something else? Right? But that's almost like making a deal. That worked out pretty good. I'm going to let him happen. But it's also a good thing, too. You trusted him, and he showed you that you can trust him. And so you can put your trust in him again and again. We've got the best deal. And that's Jesus Christ as our Savior. It doesn't get any better. I don't care what's behind door number 3. It doesn't get any better than that. That is the best deal. Right? I think many of us find a kindred spirit in Jacob. I know in some aspects I find a kindred spirit. I think we can understand his reluctance at that time in his life to trust fully in what God was asking of him and in God's promise. It's hard to know what God will do in our lives if we yield it to him. It's a scary thought, isn't it? To give your life over. That's a lot of faith. It's already a lot of faith to believe, but it's a lot of faith to actually believe and to give up and yield your life to him. But the Bible affirms again and again that God and only God can be trusted. It's on our money, and God we trust. But in seriousness, the Bible is it's very clear. God is the only entity, the only thing that we can trust that's going to be